So the moment a lot of us have been waiting for is here. There is a federal district court judge that has signaled an interest in filing complaints at the Bar Association, the Attorney Grievance Commission of the various different Department of Justice attorneys that have been willingly, intentionally, and purposefully ignoring court orders, obfuscating and making complete mockeries of the judicial system, the courts, and violating their oath of office and candor to the court as officers of the court. So if you're interested in that and get a little more details, stay tuned. And it came from a hearing yesterday in Judge Jim Boasberg's courtroom in D.C. He is the chief judge of the district court in D.C. He also once was the head of the FISA court, which is a foreign intelligence surveillance court. And that's why it was great that the ACLU was able to get him to review Donald Trump's March 14th executive order evoking this rare 18th century law called the Alien Enemies Act that had only been used 3 times before during times of active war. And in his executive order, he declared a Venezuelan gang called Tren de Aragua, or TDA for short, as an alien excursion sent by Venezuelans Maduro to infiltrate the United States. So Jim Boasberg, again, being once head of the FISA court, was like, that doesn't sound right. And in a hearing where Drew Ensign, who's a Department of Justice attorney, was before him, he said, I'm ordering you, and it was oral, to tell your administration, your clients, Department of Justice clients, the Trump administration, do not send anyone to El Salvador under this law until I get a chance to review it. And they did that, opposite of that, overnight. And right after they did it, in a hearing, he says this was bad faith because you did it in the still of night within 36 hours of the order being issued, that it's suspect. So I think that you did that purposefully. So he'd been working for months and months to get to the bottom of it. He, in April, had decided that I think I am going to potentially have a civil or criminal contempt hearing on this. I'm going to get an independent attorney, independent prosecutor, because I don't want to go to Jim Bondi's court to investigate who was responsible for these men being sent to this prison, denying them due process of the law. And we now know that all 9 of the Supreme Court justices says anyone that's sent out this country is entitled to due process, habeas corpus proceeding to prove to themselves or present evidence that they are not subject, they're not gang members. And the Trump administration denied these men the ability to prove that they weren't gang members, didn't give them notice, didn't give notice to the council, didn't give them process, procedure in their language, nothing, denied all due process that they were entitled to according to the Supreme Court, according to our law, according to Jim Boasberg, according to standards that have existed for hundreds and hundreds of years, but for this lawless administration does whatever the hell they want. So they sent these men off. They were tortured for 4 months. And now we know this week they did an exchange, a prison swap for 10 Americans and sent them to Venezuela. Though a lot of the men were under the process of procedures, the Trump administration got them from immigration courts. Some of them were given work permits. They were doing the process of coming to the United States legally using our asylum and refugee laws that we offer to the international communities. They were following the process. And because they're Venezuelan and because the Trump administrations are lawless, inept, racist, they just use the fact that some of these men just had like an Autism Speaks tattoo or Real Madrid tattoo or just a crown related to their own family heritage with no basis whatsoever, and sent them over to be tortured for 4 months. That's something Jim Boasberg was trying to avoid. And that's why he said someone needs to be punished for avoiding. My order would have stopped this from happening, but because you guys determined to ignore my order, we had this horrible result happen for these men who are human beings. You might not regard them as human beings because y'all are racist. He didn't say that, I'm saying that, but they're human beings. You can't treat people this way because we have standards. We have processes. The Trump administration, since it's been in power for 300 days or whatever, that all they've been doing is being lawless, ignoring the law, corrupt. This is just me right now saying this, bribing schools, bribing institutions, just being just the most lawless, ridiculous, corrupt. The amount of corruption that we're going to uncover that they've been doing actively in our faces. You would have to be a fool to not know this shit is inept and corrupt. But anyway, I digress. Back to the thing. So what did he say? He said yesterday, we now have proof, and I'm so upset that my hands are tied. Why are his hands tied? So I digress. Back to the case. So during yesterday's hearing, the Jim Boasberg referenced the fact that there's been a whistleblower, Arez Reveni, who I've mentioned before in my videos, And in Arez Reveni's whistleblower lawsuit, he has receipts. In his receipts, he shows that when Drew Ensign, who's Department of Justice attorney, was before Jim Boasberg, and Jim Boasberg said, "Are you aware of any planes in the sky?" Whether he has plausible deniability or not, we know from the whistleblower's receipts that he put on the record that Emil Bouvet, who is a man that Donald Trump has put up for a lifetime judicial appointment, is on record saying, tell the judges F you. How are you trying to be part of a fraternity of judges and you're telling lawyers to F the judges? Essentially, you're saying disregard your oath to office, the oath to the court, oath to law, oath to being decency, and in order to just advance a lawless man's regime, Epstein's best friend. Come on now. And shame on the Republicans of the Judiciary Committee, because they advanced this man to the next level, even though they know very well at the time they advanced him that this whistleblower had said that he said on the record, Jesus, I hope Drew gets out of this without sanctions, which means shows intent. That he knew that what Drew and all those folks are doing, when the judge says, tell them orally, don't do it. He knew that there was an oral order to say don't send them people, and he ignored the oral order and said we're going to get around the oral order and say it wasn't written. That's what Jim Boasberg suspected back in April when he said, you guys seem to be acting in bad faith. When he said a couple of months later, I'm going to start an independent investigation, independent of the Bondi's Department of Justice, and get an independent prosecutor to determine whether he's going to start the process of saying we're going to have sanctions hearings. He was paused because the Trump administration does what they do. They don't wait for the case to end. They immediately appeal every little thing that a judge says or do. They immediately appeal them, an interlocutory appeal to the next level. And when they did so, they drew two Trump appointed judges to one, I think, Obama judge, who allowed them to pause Jim Boasberg's investigation on criminal attempt. So during the hearing yesterday, Jim Boasberg said, it's a shame my hands are tied and the plaintiffs aren't going to be able to get the benefit of what I can do for them because of this stay. However, I have more tricks. And what tricks do I have? He said, I will certainly be assessing whether government counsel's conduct and veracity to the court warrants a referral to the state bars or our grievance committees, which determines lawyers' fitness to practice in our courts. Boom. Now, if you follow my account, JJ Legal, on here, I'm helping people understand what's going on in the Trump administration, the lawsuits filed against them. And one of the things I tell you all the time is the Department of Justice is hemorrhaging attorneys because people are demoralized. They're leaving. They're taking the buyouts. They're being fired. And so they're operating already on a thin line with a little thin roster. Now, thinning out the roster will be these bar complaints, and it's the first one. So now we have Jim Boasberg willing to refer them. Judge Paula Zinus in the District Court in Maryland had already teed that up or suggested that she might do it as well. So has Judge Stephanie Gallagher, because in all three of those cases, when they've asked the Trump administration to provide updates, instead of providing thorough updates with actual something that advances, they say the same shit. They're just reprinting stuff that's on the public record. They're showing a mockery. They're showing that they don't have disregard. They have utter disregard for the processes. They don't regard the judges. They don't care. They're not doing the process. They're not following. They're just putting bullshit on the complaints, and they're essentially thumbing their nose in the judges' faces. So if Jim Boasberg successfully refers them to the bar and all these other judges take clues and the bar complaints start to advance, soon that little thin roster is going to be thinner because they're going to have a bunch of people without law license. And people, I mean, how many, I don't know, they're going to have to start pulling from like third-rate law. They're going to start pulling from law students. I don't know where they're going to get them from. So yeah, y'all keep doing lawless shit. We, the people, the judges, the judicial people who honor decency, who respect the 254-year institutions that have been built, the processes of the Administrative Procedure Act, the court processes. You're supposed to take an oath to decency, the oath to truth, the oath to the court. And you guys, instead of taking an oath to Donald Trump and trying to advance the agenda, Pam Bondi's a hack, and she's telling y'all, and I'm going to say in the video coming forward, she's telling them, ignore, throw out the books. Try to prosecute these stuff. They can't even get a grand jury to prosecute the protesters in LA because it's based on nothing. Just like sending those people to CCOT was based on nothing. They violated the laws. They didn't give them lawyers. They didn't give them notice in their language. They didn't give them a chance to defend themselves. All 9 of the Supreme Court justices said that those folks are entitled to due process, and Donald Trump administration denied them of that. And they're lawless. And now we have another tool. We have a judge that's saying, I'm going to potentially file a complaint. And this is the beginning. And this is what accountability looks like. And this is what we've been waiting for. We're fighting back. We're pushing back. We're not just sitting down and taking it And my name is JJ Legal. Each one teach one. Share this video with people who care about this. Follow my account. Check out jjlegal.com. Get my Know Your Rights card, my trackers, and we're going to do this. Yeah.